You want to wait a few minutes for others to come in still?
And we can get started. People will continue to pop in, but we can get started in the interest of time.
Okay. All right. Well, good evening, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Chris Bignell. I'm the interim CEO of Valley Venture Mentors. Welcome to this month's virtual community night. This month, we've got a real special program put together. Hope, I have to admit, did the vast majority of the work, so she gets a lot of the credit. But in honor of Black History Month, we've put together a really impressive program for this evening, where we will be celebrating Black entrepreneurs and Black business leaders. To help us this evening, we've got two very familiar people to the Springfield entrepreneurial ecosystem who are going to assist with this evening. Former VVM Chief Operating Officer Ron Molina Brantley is going to be our keynote speaker, and the very distinguished Gregory Thomas from the Bartheum Center of Entrepreneurship up at Umass will be our facilitator. We are really excited to introduce everyone on this call tonight to all of these individuals and emphasize how much we want to support them in all of their efforts to be successful business leaders. So with that, I will pass it on to Hope, who can provide a lot more detail about this evening's program.
Thank you, Chris. Oh, sorry. Okay, so again, welcome. Thank you so much all for coming, and we really appreciate all of our participants and guests. Thank you all for being here. We have a really exciting program. Sorry, I'm juggling two computers, which is why I'm looking away. We have a really exciting program coming up on February 24th. Chris, if you could just monitor the waiting room, that would be great. Thank you. It's a really exciting program where we're going to have Benga Ogujimi, who is a brand story expert and the executive producer of the film Good to Great Stories, which is a small business documentary on Amazon Prime. And we're going to be screening the film as well as having a workshop directly with the producer Benga. And this is a really exciting collaboration between the Association of Black Business and Professionals, as well as Direct Your Purpose. And so we're really excited. Afterwards, I'll put in the chat the registration link for that. If you have any questions, you can always reach out. It's from 5:30 to 7 on Wednesday, the 24th. And I encourage everybody to sign up. The video is great. If you haven't already seen it on Amazon Prime, you can check it out there. Also, you can register for the weekly entrepreneurial roundtable that we host from 5 to 6 on Zoom as well. I'll put these registration links in the chat as well. And the next community night, I will put the registration link for that one as well. Super excited to have this incredible panel. Thank you so much again, Ron, Molina Brantley to be our keynote speaker, Gregory Thomas as our facilitator. We have Mike Connolly from the Standout Truck, Chatoya Jones from First Ladies of Poverty Foundation, Kenny Lumpkin from Dewey's Jazz Lounge, Ruby Maddox from Direct Your Purpose, and Lenny Underwood from Upscale Socks. As you'll hear, that these are only one of all of these entrepreneurs' businesses. These are all serial entrepreneurs, and I'm sure they'll tell you more about that. But I just wanted to say thank you so much. We really appreciate having you and getting to hear from you and learn more about your businesses and your experiences. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to our keynote speaker, Ron Molina Brantley, VP of Rebex, my banker for Berkshire Bank. Thank you, Ron.
Thanks, Hope. And I want to thank VVM for having me tonight. We have a wonderful group of panelists that you'll hear from tonight. I'm moderated by the man that needs no real introduction, Gregory Thomas. You will hear some sharp advice that you can actually apply to your business. As Hope noted, my name is Ron Molina Brantley, Vice President, Relationship Manager for Berkshire Bank, former COO of this very VVM. VVM wanted me to talk about Black entrepreneurship. And as I thought, what I'm going to say, I had to remind myself that I actually do have experience in entrepreneurship. As I look back with great pride, I remember many entrepreneurs that are actually here tonight. VVM has impacted me in tremendous ways, as I am sure it has helped many of you. I remember my first collegiate accelerator program during my time at VVM. The joy, the passion surrounding starting a venture was palpable. It actually became very infectious. As I helped these budding business owners, I kept telling myself, what's stopping me from starting a business? I got an immediate response from my subconscious stating, actually, the financial risk is too high. I have two boys that don't seem to stop growing. And actually, this is not a great time to start a business. So I agreed and further suppressed those ambitions. But as I look back, I just noticed that I was actually feared. I was scared and I feared failing. As COO of VVM, on many occasions, I sometimes became paralyzed with imposter syndrome. There were many moments I actually didn't realize I didn't believe I belonged. As I look back, I am actually proud to say I had such a huge impact on this organization. Kristen, myself, and the team opened this wonderful Springfield Innovation Center, which is actually now home to VVM. So with great pride, I'm actually happy to announce that Revex Labs has started pre-construction to the cafe space adjacent to VVM. VVM and Berkshire Bank will be partnering to open a downtown storefront where VVM can help support the vision for a unique pop-up retail spot for B2C businesses, as well as access to high financial education and advice from banking experts. I believe this initiative will give further opportunity for Black and Brown business owners. This project comes at a great time. Black Americans have been disproportionately affected by COVID-19. We have roughly 3 times as likely as white Americans to be infected by the virus, and Black-owned businesses have been hit really hard by the economic fallout more than any other demographic. So from the pandemic, upward of 41% of all Black-owned businesses in America have closed their doors for good. Latinx business owners fell by 32%. That's according to the Bureau of Economic Research out of Boston. So why is that so significant and detrimental to our community? It's actually because it's hard as hell for Black-owned businesses to get funding, to be honest. As a Black entrepreneur, there are many obstacles that stands in our way. One, lack of funding, as it may be difficult to ask our parents or friends for startup costs, limited access to advisors, or just help. Black and Brown entrepreneurs typically rely on 3 primary sources for startup capital: personal and family savings, business loans from banks, and credit cards. Overwhelmingly, most new businesses utilize their personal savings or receive little monetary support from their families for startup capital. So some don't even attempt to start a business due to lack of access to finance. Without being community resourced and advice, no mentoring models, and like I noted earlier, fear. Furthermore, racism has a paralyzing effect on us. It is human nature to avoid rejection, and a would-be Black entrepreneur may not even approach a bank for funding or even a lawyer for advice if they have reason to believe that they will be rejected or receive a lower level of service on the basis of the color of their skin. Black bank loans account for only 18% of startup capitals and 3 times less likely to have their own loan request approved than the white counterparts. So many Black entrepreneurs rely on personal credit cards for startup capital and less likely to apply for and receive federal emergency aid, such as the Paycheck Protection Program that Congress passed last spring. And at the same time, police killings of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor sparked a national reckoning over structural racism and longstanding inequities. So what am I trying to tell you? Is that we must support Black-owned businesses. It's not just by buying their products. It's not by just also helping them. It's also helping them sustain during this difficult time. A 41% Black-owned business closing is 41% way too many. Some of you may be thinking, Ron, you work at a bank. Oh, what are you doing to help? Actually, that's a great question. I work at a bank, but like I tell people, I don't own a bank. I am fortunate to work at a socially responsible bank in Berkshire Bank, Revex Labs, which is a department within the bank. And we're committed to banking the underbanked with dignity and with guiding belief that by disrupting the traditional barriers to resources, we can grow, build new economies that change our communities and the world. One initiative ran out of Revex Labs is called the Runway Project. The Runway Project tries to solve the friends and family seed funding gap for entrepreneurs of color by providing early stage funding options and holistic businesses to promising minority owned businesses. The Pew Research Center was found that whites in the US have access to $142,000 and that African Americans have access to merely $11,000 from this common funding path, according to the Census Bureau. $30,000 is the capital starting point to get a startup off the ground, which leaves African American startups at significant disadvantage. So Berkshire Bank Friends and Family Fund is a new loan fund designed to help entrepreneurs of color access those seed fundings so they can get their businesses launched and off the ground. It also helps spur economic growth in the underserved communities. There is no shortage of great business ideas within the communities of color, but they have historically lacked the access to capital to launch their business. For example, the most common funding path for new business owners begins with ask of support from friends and family. Like I noted earlier, sometimes that may not be the option, but a clear racial wealth gap exists that limits Black entrepreneurs from accessing significant funding. The racial wealth gap is structural, pervasive, and the lack of access to capital is a key barrier to entrepreneurship and economic growth in our communities. So Berkshire Bank is proud to launch this fund and help close the racial wealth gap. The Friends and Family Fund is a $5,000 to $20,000 4% loan. And another product which is designed to help minority business owners is our COVID-19 Revex Labs Future Fund line of credit. It's actually a mouthful, which is a 3% line of credit up to $50,000, which is also designed to help small business owners bridge the gap during these trying times. Last but not least, the Revex Labs Cafe, which we located right next to VVM's downtown Springfield office. As I noted earlier, we have started pre-construction and with an anticipated open date of April 2021. There are many advantages of entrepreneurship, one of them being it promotes economic growth. The existing number of Black-owned businesses have created over 1 million jobs and generated over $165 billion in revenue. African Americans have played a profound role in shaping the US business landscape and will continue to do so. So we must support them, recognize them, assist them, and buy their products or services. As I noted earlier, I was afraid of failing. And as the pandemic hit our community the hardest, I have decided the time is now to start and make a difference. So to play a small part, lending a hand to our community, I have recently launched a budgeting consulting firm called Pinching Each Penny. PP was created to advance generational wealth for economically depressed youth and adults through financial planning, education, and mentorship. We believe in a world where financial systems are free of systemic oppression, where systems are free and equitable for the Black community to succeed and thrive in modern times. My goal is to help families gain financial freedom by taking control of their financial future. I view entrepreneurship with the same lens. Entrepreneurship is freedom, and we must help our Black and brown business owners succeed. And as I conclude, I want to call to action. Please support the wonderful business owners on this panel. I'm wearing one of Lenny's wonderful socks that says Best Dad. And I would show you, but I don't think I can lift my leg up that high. So thanks again for VVM for allowing me to speak tonight. I absolutely passionately believe that how far you go in life should be about your talents and your hard work and nothing else. So please support Black and brown business owners. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ron. That was amazing. And congratulations. That's really exciting. Okay, so now I'm going to introduce Gregory Thomas, who is the Executive Director of the Umass Bartheum Center for Entrepreneurship. I'm very excited to have him here moderating our panel, and I'm just going to turn it over to him so that he can give the entrepreneurs an opportunity to introduce themselves.
Thank you, Hope. And thank you, Hope, very much. And Ron, thank you for that inspirational message. Thank you for the work you do and boots on the ground, on the front line, helping entrepreneurs. We appreciate you. Also, thank you to VVM for putting this on tonight. We as a community appreciate you, VVM, and all the hard work you do and the thought that you put behind supporting entrepreneurs in this ecosystem. I see the past VVM CEO on the line. Just a quick shout out to Kristen. Kristen, thank you for joining us tonight. And now right to our 5 panelists. Panelists, and I'll warn you, and I'll just go in order of what I'm going to ask you. I know you're already prepared for this, but just extra preparation. I'll just go through and ask you to share your name, your current venture, and if you would please for us, share one of your current struggles as an entrepreneur. Often we share and we beat our chest and we say how well we're doing. We just want to. We'll end with that, but let's start with one thing you're struggling with. So your name, your current venture, and one thing you're struggling with as an entrepreneur. And I'll start with Michael, and I'll say Michael Conley, and you can say the rest for us, Michael. Let's go.
Thank you so much, Gregory. I appreciate you. So I'm Mike Conley, aka Mr. Stinky Cakes, aka the Standout Truck King. I own a mobile digital billboard that you see if you're in Western Mass. You've probably seen it in the street. That's me. What I'm good at is brand awareness and storytelling, and for businesses and organizations. And when we do that, we have to make a lot of money. One of the things that I'm struggling with, so I like to tell people entrepreneurship is a roller coaster, man. So like it's up and down. So the word struggle makes me feel like it's weighted. So, but one of the things I'm dealing with right now, one of the problems I'm looking to correct, and entrepreneur is someone that corrects problems, like find solutions to problems. So, we're looking for really good salespeople. Like we have a really great business, we have a really great business model. We're looking to grow, we're looking to expand. But finding good help sometimes is difficult, because I'm like what I call a psychotic entrepreneur. So like I'm addicted to perfection. So like I want people that are gonna go really, really hard, like give me everything they got. And if they do that, I compensate them really well. Like I'm a visionary. I have the goal of taking this company public. And you're not gonna have, if you have great goals, you can't achieve those with mediocre thinking and mediocre people. So for me, it's finding people that want to passionately pursue greatness. And just go above and beyond a paycheck and just kind of give it all so we could build something great together.
Mike, thank you so much. Thank you for sharing that. I think we can all relate to that in our careers and in the time that we work through is finding good people. Next, Miss Chatoya Jones, if you could do the same for us, please.
All right, can you hear me? Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Chatoya Jones. I'm founder and CEO of the First Ladies of Party Foundation. We create generational wealth blueprints for BIPOC and minority communities through entrepreneurship and investing trade certification programs. So to break that down a little bit, you choose a business track with us. We have a variety of online businesses you can start that you can take to brick and mortar if you so choose. But right now the market is very digitized, and I think it's more sustainable if you start online, especially if you have little to no capital, which a lot of our community members don't have or have access to yet. So choose an online business track, then we help you earn, be sustainable. 6 figures is the goal at least, but we tend to surpass that. So once you hit 6 figures, you get matched to a financial mentor who helps you manage that money and save it, create a savings, create a budget for yourself so you can continue earning and sustainably reinvesting that money back into your business to grow and scale. And then once you do that, we help you create multiple streams of income from that one business model. And then after you create at least 2 extra income streams, we help you start to invest into physical real estate. If that wasn't one of the other income streams before, but just investing that money to continue that generational wealth blueprint. And then we help you protect your assets. And I think that's one of the things we often, especially in BIPOC minority communities, are not taught how to do, is protect our businesses, protect our assets, protect our money before we lose it or have any liabilities to lose it. So in that, we create generational wealth for our members, our entrepreneurs, our students, and our influencers that we work with. Challenges. I would say challenges, I have 2. One of them would be changing the mindset of not only, because when I say generational wealth blueprints, when I say investing for BIPOC and minorities, sometimes people already have an idea of what that means in their head, kind of like if I said passive income. Every one of us have a different way of looking at that. So I guess it's more so getting people to hear my version instead of automatically assuming they already know what it means, automatically assuming they understand what I'm trying to say, or they understand the circumstances at which the people I'm working with are in, and just hearing from those people themselves and not thinking they're already the experts on the experiences of the BIPOC and minority we're trying to serve. And 2, my second issue would be getting into contact with the right people how do I say this? Getting into contact with the right people who are not just in it for the profit, which I have a track record of making, but also the vision itself for poverty alleviation through racial equity, entrepreneurship, and investing. I think once I can get in the right room with those people and collaborate together, not just for the money or not just for the clout or not just for the status, for the vision, that would be fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And we all, I think we all can agree, we struggle with getting people to listen and really hear what we're saying, and then also navigating into the right room and finding people who share our vision, similar to what Mike said, so people that with the same energy and the same vision that we have. Kenny, I'm coming to you next. I know you're ready. Kenny, please share with us what you're working on right now and one of your struggles or one of your challenges.
I'll call it a challenge for sure. Hello, everyone, and thanks again, VVM, for having us. My name is Kenny Lumpkin, and I am the co-founder of Dewey's Jazz Lounge with hopes to open Worthington Street this coming spring. Like I said, fingers crossed there. And that actually leads into one of our biggest challenges is opening a restaurant amidst a pandemic. So as I've shared with many people is we've had these plans in place for years at this point. We've been looking for a location for probably a year and a half. We were very close to finding a location at the beginning of last spring, right before the pandemic hit. Luckily, there was you talk about divine intervention. Luckily, we were looking at a location and my business partner, his name is Dr. Mark Markarian, who's more of an investing partner on this project. I sent him into the location. I wasn't there. I said, hey, just go check it out. I just want you to feel comfortable with it before we move forward with the project. And as he was leaving, a water main broke in the ceiling, which caused us to go back to the drawing board, or at least revise our lease, the drafted lease that we spent 2 months drafting. Which sent us back, and we've taken now a year to find another location. But now the next challenge is figuring out as far as occupancy and capacity regulations and COVID regulations and health inspections, X, Y, and Z, figuring out when exactly is the right time to host an appropriate grand opening the way we want to do it. So I would say that's the biggest challenge we have. And similar to what Michael and Chatoya said is one of the, I would say, more minor challenges is really relaying your vision to others, right? Because as entrepreneurs, we know we can't do this on our own. It's impossible. Every entrepreneur you see on here has a team behind them. Actually, I'm going to shout out Sophie Fish. She's on the line. She is our marketer. However, she handles everything. And she's completely, invaluable priceless to this project going. And she is one person that understands the vision, but working with another 10 people, whether it's contractors, subcontractors, other vendors that are coming in to make this come to life. It's extremely frustrating at times when they don't understand your vision or don't understand urgency. However, I'm taking the responsibility for that one as the business owner to figure that out.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that and the challenges of communicating your vision, but also the challenges of brick and mortar. And we understand. Next, I'll go to Ruby, our friend Ruby. Ruby, how are you tonight? If you could please introduce yourself to the audience and tell us one challenge you're having.
Sure. So my name is Ruby Maddox, and my current project is Free World, but tonight also Direct Your Purpose. And so that's my coaching and consulting firm that basically helps people go from aspiration to action on their goals. So that's individuals and organizations. It's similar in a lot of ways. And I teach a framework that helps people move along that track so that they can really just kind of launch themselves, even when they have no idea how to get from point A to point B. So got my start with a little bit of that at VVM as a mentor. Shout out to VVM, and thank you also, Hope, for pulling all this together. I noticed a lot of stuff, but so that's my work. That's what I do. My current challenge right now is just that I think as entrepreneurs, we spend so much time kind of like building up, you know, our business in terms of the thing that we're doing, right? The thing that we're putting out there, you know, coaching or whatever services, products, we spend so much time doing that. And then when it actually does start to like, all right, this is going, there's some momentum going behind it. It's just like, great, you know, now I'm actually also a business person, right? And what are the systems on the back end that we're putting into place? Because a lot of times the skills that got us in, you know, the skills of being scrappy, doing your own like marketing and outreach and doing all that got you launched and got you to, you know, whatever success you had is a different, you know, it's different when it's like, okay, when we're talking about scaling and building those back end systems. So it's sort of like learning how like, oh, okay, this is what that looks like. This is what it means to sort of delegate some of that, because like it grows to a capacity where you can't do it all. And so the struggle is, and I guess maybe related to what some other folks said of like, you know, how do you find the people that, you know, help you on that back end, being in accounting, or, you know, maybe you're not doing your own social media anymore. Maybe you're sort of, you know, you've got a virtual assistant. So all of those systems, you know, need to happen alongside of the thing that you do. And I think that's been one of my struggles in sort of like putting a lot of intention into that while also growing the business.
Thank you so much, Ruby. And yes, the challenges of getting the back offices set up and the challenges of scaling in general. I think we've heard that from all of our panelists so far. Is how do you make it better, and how you find the right people to move forward on that. And I know Chris is taking meticulous notes because he's structuring the next workshops he's going to offer to help people. And so with that, I'd like to bring it home with the introductions with a stranger to none of us, Lenny Underwood, and all that Leonard does for the community with his businesses. Lenny, please.
Yeah, thank you, Greg. It's so great to be here with you all this, I guess, late afternoon. Lenny Underwood here, representing Upscale Socks, a business I started after I had a dream in 2014, launched in 2016. And enjoying the journey that I've been on with that. And also photographer for the last 17 years, since 2004, something I started when I was in college at American International College after my mom and grandmom told me to get a real job. And that was just a hobby, nothing that would turn into a full-time career. So those are my two main sources of income. I also do personal training, and when school's in session, occasionally I'll substitute teach in the high schools in Springfield. So a couple of challenges I would say for myself and my business would be mainly for photography. Over the last year since the pandemic, most of my work is event-based. So with events being totally canceled, weddings and annual dinners and birthday parties changing their dates or canceling completely, it has caused me to have to pivot my business and lose on quite a bit of, reliable income that I relied on, I should say. So that's been a large challenge. And then I would say for both businesses, it would be like most other businesses mentioned tonight, finding reliable sources, those that you may entrust to do or provide service for you. I actually, before this call, I was on an email exchange with one of my providers, and unfortunately, he's pushing the work back on to me when you hire them to do the work for you. So part of me is baffled by it, but it just causes me to really, pray and look for other resources that are out there that can provide a really good service for what I'm looking for.
Thank you, Lenny, and thank you to the other four panelists who've shared their struggles. I think one of the things I talked to Ruby about as she was setting this up is, as African Americans, we don't necessarily, and we're all on the call, and these five panelists may know VVM a little bit more intimately, but if we think about some of the other frontline African American businesses, Black businesses, BIPOC businesses in our community, when they think about where do they go for help for entrepreneurship, VVM is not always the first place they think of. Now, again, you guys are on this panel and you know VVM well, but you also know people who don't know VVM. And so Hope asked me to be incredibly open, transparent, and frank today. So I'm going to ask Mike to take this first. Mike, what could VVM do better to be seen in our community, in the Black community, as a resource and as a go-to for entrepreneurs?
To be honest, I mean, the easiest thing you guys could do is just have more people of color be in it. Like when we look at the Christmas photo, if we could count the Black people, then we don't feel like we belong there. So like that, it's not hard, man. Like entrepreneurship is about generating revenue, right? So anything you could do to help people generate revenue, they'll listen. But they gotta feel welcome. Like this just is what it is. It's a big part of it. Like for me, so I grew up in the Caribbean. So like my approach to people is different. Like I have this thing where I believe everybody's my friend, which I mean, it sometimes it's a fault, right? So like, but you got one time to screw me, and then I'm done with you. Right. So I think for me, I walk through more doors because I don't deal with the pressure, the systematic racism pressure as much. I still deal with the effects of it. But my mindset is tourism based. Like I said, everybody's my friend. So if you want more people, just let them know they're welcome. But it can't be a charity case. Just like really have diversity. I really have people involved. Like we deal with the same thing over at SCORE. I'm the co-chair at SCORE, and they asked me the same question. Like, how do we get more people of color to come in? And I go, easy, just make them feel welcome. Like if you call them people of color and all these other labels and stuff, it's kind of like you're forcing yourself to include people. Like be like little kids. Let's put it like that. Be like little kids. When little kids go to play, they just play. They just want to play. They don't care what you look like. They don't care where you're from. They don't care if you're rich or poor. Let's play tag. So just play tag and then you'll get more people.
Thank you. Thank you for your transparency and your openness, Mike. And I'll ask just to unmute on the other four if you'd like to share your opinions. Chatoya, Kenny, Ruby, or Lenny.
On that same question, I mean, I think I would second a little bit what Mike said. I think that was the first thing that drew me into the VVM community, like way back when they were over on Tower Square. And it was just like, hey, here's a name tag. We value your input, period. You know, not like, you know, what's your background? What do you come with? Let us know if we can take your opinion on it. It was like, you're in the room, you've got something to offer. And I was like, all right, cool. Like, I love that. Right. Coming back to helping to create that energy.
Yeah, I felt that way, Ruby, when I first came to a VVM event. It's almost like you have to get there. And we have to figure out how to get you there. Because when you come in, it's like, here, have a drink, here's some food, let's go, right? But to actually get in the room, sometimes it's not, it doesn't always work as well. So I think we as friends of VVM, and I'm looking around here to try and get my number. There are 41 people on this call, right? Tell somebody about VVM. Right, Nikki. I'm looking at Nikki and who else do I say? And Tiffany. Tell someone about VVM, and you see these 5 folks here who know about VVM, and so I'm going to ask Lenny to talk about Lenny, please, to talk about maybe some of the things you've gotten from attending VVM and a VVM event as a mentor and as a business owner.
Well, going back to getting people in the room, I would say it might be a little intimidating to some to initially take that step. You enter a room with, you know, maybe well-suited individuals, and you may not feel like you belong there. Not speaking for everyone, but that might be the experience. And then also for me, I have a unique experience, I would say, with VVM. I attended an Ask an Expert event maybe 6 years ago almost, just getting some direction on my business. I actually never went through the program because I was directed to go through, at the time it was called Spark Holyoke, now E4All. But I initially was a little offended by that, but then I learned it by my own, I guess, research is that I wasn't what they were looking for, my type of business. So I think that might, you know, if I was maybe someone else, that might have rubbed me really the wrong way, and I would not want to have any ties or any association with the organization. But for me, it didn't do that, and it just caused me to want to push even further and, you know, build alliances and relationships with those that I know are in my community.
Lenny, I like that you say that, because what I heard you say is that adversity, that bad experience, it drove you to be better. And your business is better. But I'd say I hope Hope and Chris, we've talked about this before. We hear what Lenny's saying, that and that as VVM creates new partnerships on that, we understand that it's even if that's someone's perception, which that was Lenny's perception, that we clearly communicate who's welcome and what businesses we're ready for. Is VVM ready for the Main Street business? VVM, are they ready for that? I think is maybe what I hear you saying. Go ahead, Lenny.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was just going to say, but it has come full circle because then I was asked to photograph some events over time, even grand openings and some, stock images. So it's amazing how, going back to not wanting to burn bridges and just maintain those relationships, because we're all in the same city. It's not a huge, area. So we have to learn how to, work together.
Yeah, and I hear you. And again, we're not talking about always what's real or what the mission was, but how people feel and perception. And so I just want to communicate that clearly, so that we're received the right way, because a lot of people put hard work into making VVM what they are and to get them to where they are. And we just want to include some more opinions in, so you VVM can work on marketing to get more of us in the room, right? As mentors and as businesses, because when I look around and I look at this panel, I would love to attend as an entrepreneur, a panel with someone who does real estate investing. We've got personal coaches and the like. So I want to kick it to Ms. Jones. Ms. Jones, if you could talk about your experience, your favorable experience with respect to VVM, but then also, can you give the audience one or two pointers on what you did to get financing, you personally?
Yes, can you hear me well? Okay, I always like to check. So the first thing, VVM, my first interaction with VVM was the Umass Summer Collegiate, I don't want to say camp, but that event, that program. And I just went there. I went there in Massachusetts 2019. And I was just visiting different areas. Obviously, with the First Ladies of Party Foundation, I wanted to make those connections and see how I could get involved and use my platform for the betterment of the community. And I went, I think normally you'd expect, a little more glam, but I was very aware of the community I was in. So, I had such, I think my experience was, I enjoyed the professional entrepreneur experience. I enjoyed learning about the youth, and it's very obvious, like youth empowerment, but I wish I had seen more intent. I guess that's the word, more intention behind making those who were not suited or not, I don't know how to say it, because it's not an attack on VVM itself. It was just the event and the people that were there. I think a lot of them were in suits and a lot of them were a little more known in the area. A lot of them were a little more up in prestige. I don't want to make it sound like, oh, woe is us. And I think if it was more intentional about making the POC and minority feel more comfortable, because a lot of them will gravitate towards me and to have the conversations, but I wondered, why do I always feel like I have to be the one to walk up and initiate the conversation, if that makes sense? Why isn't anyone like welcoming you to? I just didn't understand that. So I think that would have been better. The second time was PodCamp. And that was in relation to the funding. That was actually where I won the first grant for the First Ladies of Party Foundation after we rebranded. And I'd have to say VVM at that time was a lot different. I don't know if it was because there was the PodCamp event, and so the people where I met Ruby, the people there was a lot more, friendlier. And I'm also a Louisiana native, so I could be a little biased in terms of hospitality. But just a lot more friendlier, a lot more able to like walk up to you, say hi, how are you, who are you, I want to know more about you. Whereas I didn't feel that at the summer collegiate event, even though there were college students around, but they were more stuck behind like their tables than actually saying hi. in regards to funding, my funding journey is very extensive, but I'll try and make it brief. So the first one, growing up in Louisiana, I was always being self-sufficient, resourceful, savvy with my money, and I always learned how to reinvest that back into my business. So to start, I was using my personal savings. I was using credit cards. I was taking out personal loans and using it for business. Um, I was working and then reinvesting that money after I paid my bills into my business. So a lot of it was self-funded to start for probably the first 5 years of my 3 consulting businesses that I had before. Then once I sold them, there's the capital there. So a lot of the initial funding for the First Ladies of Partner Foundation came from the selling of those 3 consulting businesses. But a lot of minority communities don't know how to how to build a company to sell. So that's probably not the norm. But I got very fortunate in that. So sold through the companies, the funding for that, reinvested it into the FOP, and then I won the grant at PodCamp. Thank goodness. And had the interview for that. People started like sharing information with me and resources with me about other things in the community. That's where I learned about Spark E for All Holyoke, Spark Holyoke, now E for All. And I pitched there. I never won the grants, but I got to network with people who told me about other things in the community, and it just went from there. And I started applying to a lot of different grants, which is time consuming, but I am someone who sees what I want and goes after it. So made it happen, stay up late nights to get it done, early mornings, but got it done. So like I said, very extensive.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. Kenny, I'd like to talk a little bit about, and you're the brick and mortar guy, and you've been in real estate investments. Talk to us about some of the challenges you've experienced as an entrepreneur with respect to real estate, with respect to brick and mortar. Give us your view, please.
And I'll also try to synthesize this response because it's extensive as well. And you raised a point at the beginning of the call that I actually wanted to expound on. Sorry, Greg, you didn't, Ronald did, in regards to acquiring funding. And luckily for the restaurant that we're opening, we've been able to self-fund, right? So we're not we're not relying on any banks to get this going. Mark and I have funded it ourselves. However, when I first got into investing in real estate, it took me, I used hard money lenders, and it probably took me a good 6 months to get a hard money lender, despite a decent income and a decent credit score. It took me quite a while to get a hard money loan. And I think at that moment is when I realized that I would, and this is my bias, I'm not encouraging others to do this, but it was at that moment I said I would never lend again. I would never borrow again, excuse me, because I had the plans drafted, I had everything in place, and the challenge of just continuously walking through my plans and walking through what my concept was, and profitability and feasibility research, and having all the numbers there, and especially the first real estate project, it was a no-brainer. So for me to get denied so many times, I realized at that moment is I'm working, although I am college educated, fluent in English, all the stuff that they try to write off as to why some people don't get these loans, credit score there, income there. I was like, at this moment is when I realized it's going to be a little bit of a challenge, right? And that's why I say challenge. It's not a hurdle. It's a challenge. It's a little bit of a resistance, being a Black business owner. But like Chatoya said, once you have a vision, you're going to go get it regardless.
Thank you, Kenny. Thank you for sharing your experience with respect to that. Ron touched on this a little bit in his talk, and I just want to pivot a little bit to COVID. Some of you talked in your intro about the impact of COVID. Lenny, you did, and Kenny, you did a little bit. Michael and Ruby, can you talk about the impact that COVID has had on your business and how you've been able to overcome that, or if it's still a challenge? Michael first, and then Ruby.
Yeah, so from the advertising side, COVID has affected me tremendously because a lot of the businesses that we had planned to do business with, they were just scaling back on their advertising budget because at the time they didn't know what they were going to do. We talking some companies with multi-million-dollar marketing budgets that were just pulling radio ads, pulling TV ads, pulling all the other ads they didn't know. But thankfully, like I said, I'm an entrepreneurial thinker. Like I literally think in terms of solutions. You could throw anything at me and I'll figure it out. But I wrote a book, and with that book, Launch and Stand Out, I used to go into a lot of the schools. So I knew a lot of the seniors, and I was like, man, it kind of sucks that they won't have the kind of experience that they're gonna supposed to have. So I was thinking, like, how can I use this truck to do something special for them instead? I just stopped worrying about money and started just thinking about community. And so people started hiring us to do graduation celebrations and do parades, and then it became birthdays and anniversaries and gender reveals and welcome homes and see you later when you come back or whatever. And it just became kind of crazy. So we just shifted and pivoted, and that'll be my advice to everybody sitting here listening, man. Kenny was just talking about how when he had his nice plan together, all the boxes were checked and he still was getting denied. And this is the thing about being a Black entrepreneur that I want to say, because white and Hispanic and all the other races, they deal with the exact same thing, right? But with us, we always wonder, so I did all this stuff. Did I not get it because I'm Black? And that's the thing that we deal with, that most people don't deal with. Not saying because we're Black, we should get the loan, but the fact of believing in the back of your mind is is it because of the color of my skin I didn't get this? That's the thing that we trying to get rid of. If we could get rid of that, we'll be good. Because I can't tell you how many times people told me no. Quite frankly, even when I was getting the money for Standout Truck and I was reaching out to some of my people that I know have money, I'm glad they said no. Because now my percentage is just all me. So and they're sitting there Mike, when you got your second truck, third truck, let me know. And I'm like, nah, I'm kind of good now. I just we're good. But that's it. But that's what COVID did for me. It made me shift and pivot. But every entrepreneur should be ready to do that no matter what. Just look at what people how can you take what you have and fill a different void? And sometimes in order to do that, you got to not think about the money. Because if you start thinking about for example, a lot of those celebrations that I did in the beginning, I lost on. But when I pulled up, and that was not negative loss, but just didn't get what I should have got. But I ended up shifting what would be my losses to my marketing budget. But then when I went to these houses and saw the kids happy and the families together and everyone having a good time, that was to me, smiles is the number one currency in the world. So it was that currency that I got paid. And now is on the back end, we're starting to see a little bit of more dividends from that stuff.
Mike, thank you. Ruby.
Yeah, sorry, I had to find a new button. So my business actually expanded in COVID. So like I had mentioned earlier, Life is a nonprofit organization called Leaders of the Free World. And what that organization did was bring students on international trips. I also work in study abroad. And so, with COVID, it's just I saw the writing on the wall for sort of my professional career, but then also having to pivot in my organization. But with my my coaching business, I kind of always was operating it and kind of doing it but it was just I found myself sort of really giving myself permission to lean into it. And also at a time when, a lot of people are questioning their purpose, right? They're questioning their purpose in their work. They're questioning their purpose in their businesses. They're doing a lot of pivoting and having to figure that out. And, at heart, I'm a strategic planner. So it's just how do you take that whole thing of this is the thing that's important to us, right? Or we're honing in on this aspect of our business because it's part of our mission. It's what we stand for. Now, how do we create a strategy from that place, right? So it's just how do we really continue to do what's really meaningful to us, what we feel we're put here to do, either as an individual or an organization, and figure out a different way to do that work. What does that vision look like? What does that plan and execution process look like? And so I think for me, COVID got me doing that more for people. There is more of a need for people to do some of that pivoting and design thinking that I offer. And so I think being able to do that virtually, you know, I have customers all over that are local, that are, you know, in different states. So it's just like COVID sort of suits what I'm doing, and sort of like is a good time for me to be doing what I'm doing. So.
I love it. I love it. I asked for both of you, Mike and Ruby, have come with, this is how we've gotten better, and how we've served it, and how we've taken our passion and made things better. I think at this point, what we'd like to do is to get me to shut up and stop asking questions and go to the audience, which is going to be wonderful. But we're going to try and figure out how to facilitate this. You have a reactions button on the bottom right-hand side. If you could raise your hand, then I'll be able to, in a fair way, field questions from the audience. And you can I'll just call on you once I see some hands going up, reactions, and you can ask the panel what you'd like. And maybe I can get it started. Let's see if I can pick on somebody. Good, I see somebody who's ripe to be picked on. Karen, do you have a question for the panel? Thank you, Karen, I love you.
Putting me on the spot, Gregory. Yes, well, since you put me on the spot, I will ask a question. Give just a second while I bob and weave. So this is a fantastic panel, and you know, I have you know, I predate VVM. I predate a bunch of other organizations that are here to help entrepreneurs, but I'm really curious about, what is the one way we've talked about what VVM could do. What about the community in general? What, not from somebody said, you know, from a handout or a charitable sort of way, but from an authentic way of really helping. You know, I grew up in Detroit in a really multicultural environment. I took it for granted, and I can't take it for granted in Western Massachusetts. So if there was one thing Western Massachusetts could do to make things better for entrepreneurs of color, what is it?
I'll take that. So I think what Western Mass could do is just kind of just look at us as people. And let me tell you what I mean by that. So a lot of you know me from my business, Stinky Cakes. And we sold diapers with teddy bears on it and lotion. That's what I sold. And one time, I won't say what city, I won't say what town, I won't say where, but I was delivering, and this guy comes to me, white guy, he says to me, "Oh, you must be the black guy that my daughter told me that's delivering a package that he shouldn't be afraid of." I'm delivering diapers with a teddy bear. And so when you guys see me as Mr. Stinky Cakes with the baker's hat and the apron with the colorful illustration, that was so people could stop looking at my black skin and not be afraid, because that brand that I created was about joy and happiness. It was about babies. So when people write, because we used to do some cash on delivery, because this was like, some people still wasn't comfortable with like e-commerce yet. This was a few years ago. And people would be in their kitchen, like shaking, signing the check. I was like, come on, man. So like, if we could get, and this is a whole holistic thing, if we could get rid of like the stigma behind being a black person, like we're not scary. We really don't, to be honest, man, we don't really got time for like whatever people believe about us. Like, cause like, if you come to our cookout, we're chilling and having a good time. And that's what most black people are. Like, we like to have a good time. That's what we into. So like, all that other nonsense is annoying. Like my mother and my sister live in Wilbraham, and I don't live in Wilbraham because when I lived out there with my mother, I promise you, every once a week I got pulled over. I used to say, listen, you guys aren't tired of pulling me over? Like, I don't have time for that. When I used to have people walk across the street when I was going to the Lois and Clark on the corner. Like, once again, I'm from the island, so I'm used to, hey, how you doing? So like, I always used to think like, yeah, if you have all your assets in your purse, lady, I don't want to rob you because you don't got enough money for me. So like, you know, like we on a different, we don't got time for that. So if we could get rid of that part, so we could just be people, we'll be happy.
Well, Mike, I love it. You got me over here cracking up, because you're right. It's like, look, I got more money than you. Get the hell out of here. Anyways, to move forward, thank you, Karen. Thank you so much for that. And I know other panelists may want to answer that, but we had another question come up. Thank you again, Karen. Salona Jordan Lewis, you had a question?
Yes, I appreciate Mike. He was so forthright in sharing information. He's why I'm in this E4All program. So I'm very excited that, each one teach one. And I appreciate all of you sharing your story. Because if it wasn't for you guys sharing that, I wouldn't even be on this call today. Again, kudos to Mike for using his platform to get the word out about the program. So again, thank you for that. I am a polywog in a big ocean right now of the entrepreneurial world. So my question to any of the panelists as to how to obtain your customer base. I'm old school in the fact that my profession is an HR person. So social media, I can find out all your inner outers about what's going on or what have you. So I'm a little concerned as to how to promote my business via social media, because we're not in a space where we can socialize in a setting and interact with people. So before I launch my business, I got to get comfortable with social media. Any recommendation as to how to obtain customers?
I'll take this one. Can you hear me well? Okay, great. So I also am very old-fashioned in that way, and I started out the same way. I originally got social media to keep in contact with family because I moved right after high school to New England. So I 100% get you. I did not want to have social media for my business. In fact, I was very adamant, and if anyone knows me, knows when I made my mind about something, that's it. I don't want to talk about it. I've already done my research. I will hear you out, but I've still made up my mind about it, right? But I think, and I taught this class actually during podcast at VVM, I taught the fundamentals of success with social media. And if you think about it, it's about building relationships. So just like I wanted to keep my relationships and build connections with my family I forgot existed even, it's the same thing with my external family, with my clients. So once I stop thinking about them as just customers and just a wallet or just another sale, and start thinking about them as my people, the people who understand my product and my service, the people who want what I need, whose lives can be transformed by what I have to offer. Again, changing your mindset on sales and selling too. When you look at selling as, I'm not trying to just get you to buy something, I'm trying to get you to have a better life through the product and service that I offer. And I'm creating this platform so that I can reach more people and earn more in less time. So if you start thinking about it in terms of just building relationships, just like you're on this call right now, building relationships, creating valuable content that's going to teach them something, that's going to help them in some way. When you start thinking about it as of instead of having, for instance, like we talked about the barriers in advertising and media historically in the narratives and trying to get our narratives out, now we have platforms where we can literally for free get on there, create this world that we want to create for the people that we're trying to support through our products and services. So if you start thinking about it as the barrier has been taken off and this little social media world is my oyster, and I can have my little piece of the internet without much interference and create this world for my consumers and my target audience, build relationships with them and directly speak with them. You don't need anyone to do it on your behalf. You can do it yourself. And help them and give them the information directly from your mouth, it will get better. I promise.
Thank you so much. Great answer. Next question is from Tiffany. Tiffany had a question, please.
Good afternoon, everybody, or evening. I'm so excited to be here. If you hear kids running around, it's totally fine. There's 3 of them somewhere in this house. But my question is surrounding sustainability. So something that I like to say is that Springfield is an amazing place to start a business, not so much to maintain a business. We are so good for things popping up and getting so much excitement, and then somehow it always dies down. So my question is around sustainability, because it's crazy when you look at pictures of downtown Springfield from the early 1900s and mid 1900s, it looks more popping than it is today. Like it looks more exciting and more like a city back then than it is now. And we used to have staples like the Johnson's bookstore, which was something that started off as a small business, but then grew to something that became meaningful to all of New England. And I think that is kind of the next step of both the business economy and the creative economy. So how do we get there? Because there are so many programs that help you start the business and maybe a little mentorship for 18 months to 2 years after that. But then the foundational education that it takes to sustain your budget, sustain the highs and lows of the global economy and now the local and national economies too. Like where is that next step into making sure these businesses that are starting are going to have 10, 15, 20, 30 years, get big enough to be bought out, things like that.
Tiffany, thank you for your question. I'll open it to the panel and see who wants to address it. And if no one unmutes, I'll call on you. There we go. Ruby and then Kenny. Ruby and then Kenny.
Yeah,
go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say something quick on that. Like one of the things that like my own coach was telling me about it, just like, I think there's so many times that we build our businesses and it's just like, again, to the back end systems, it's just like, we're not necessarily taught sort of like that sustainability piece, right? So it's just like, it's through like different avenues like this, different resources where it's just like, yes, let's learn about what we're trying to put out there, but how do we have more resources on like, you know, how do you manage your books? It's not as fun as posting on social media, trust me.
Yes.
But it's really important, you know, is your business registered? You know, do you have a legal registration? All those sort of things help with sustainability. You know, when it came down to a lot of the PPE loans and stuff like that, they came out that, you know, a lot of businesses could have been eligible for. We didn't have a lot of our back end systems together to be able to be in line for some of that stuff. So I think to answer your question, some of that sustainability comes from making sure that our back end systems are where they're supposed to be as a business.
And I'll add some quick color to that, Ruby. And I think, sorry, was it Tiffany that asked the question? Yes. Tiffany, I think it's a mix of three things. Chatoya touched on it, Michael touched on it, and Ruby just elaborated on it. Is one, systems. I think people don't realize that a business it's a mix of an idea and systems, right? A business isn't just a concept. So everyone has created a business in their head. Everyone on this phone on this call has created some type of business in their head by solving any type of problem. The actual brick and mortar, if you want to call it, of a business is when you create that, when you develop or evolve that concept into a system. So creating a system so that way, if Tiffany starts this business and Tiffany can't work for a year, that business there's no hiccup because you created a system that people can follow. Another one is another aspect to sustainability, and you can see it, Michael touched on it earlier, and you can see it, if we're gonna use Springfield businesses as an example, I think Red Rose did a great job of this, is adapting, continuously adapting your business plan. I call it, it's almost like pickleball, like take this great business idea you have, throw it against the wall 100 times, if it's still there, throw it again until it sticks. Because you're constantly in a world that's evolving. For example, Walmart was, I don't want to swear on this, but Walmart was it, right? Walmart was it until Amazon came along. And the reason why Walmart declined so greatly, so quickly is because they didn't adapt to the e-commerce. So no matter what your business is, there's always room to adapt. And then I would say the third point is what Chatoya said, is creating that strong base. And this is something Theodore's on Worthington Street did, is Theodore's, we could go through this pandemic another 5 years, they're not closing down because they have those same 100 people that will come every Friday, Saturday and get them through when it comes to bringing in revenue. So I think if you focus on those three things, is building a core, first building a system, building a core client base, and then continuously evolving that business concept, you're kind of bulletproof. I don't want to say bulletproof and give some false confidence, but yeah, I think if you have those three things, you're pretty golden.
Kenny, thank you for those three things, and thank you for mentioning two of my favorite restaurants that keep me overweight, Red Rose and Theodore's. And thank you for the panelists, Michael, Chatoya, Kenny, Ruby, Lenny. Thank you to VVM, and I think there are a few VVM board members on the call. Ron and Kristen too, VVM past executives. Thank you for joining the call. Thank you for being here tonight. And I want to pass it back to Hope because she probably has a closing message for you. If you could unmute yourself, Hope, if you don't mind. If we all unmute ourselves and give everyone a round of applause, that would be nice.
I'll keep it quick because I know we're over. I just thank you all so much for sharing your experience and so much knowledge. And I just am very appreciative of all of you. Thank you all for coming and being a part of this event. Thank you for your great questions as well. I'm gonna put my information in the chat if you have any thing that you'd like to add, or I'd love to connect with all of you. But again, thank you very much and have a great rest of your night. And don't forget to sign up for the events that are in the chat, or follow VVM so that you can get.
Don't forget about the 24th event. If you have a business, it's really, really great to come and hear about this. So definitely join that.
Absolutely. I put it in the chat. Trailer. If you follow VVM, you'll see the information. It's good to great stories. If you have Amazon Prime, check it out. It's already there. It's an incredible documentary and a really great opportunity to connect with the brand expert and storyteller himself from the movie. So please check it out and share the word.
Question: when will the recording be available?
Of this?
Yeah.
I will send it out tomorrow.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Good night.
Everyone.
Thanks, everybody.